It's time to celebrate again. Woo-hoo. Woo-hoo. Celebrate good time, come on. Celebrate good time, come on. Oh yes. Well, we have two things to celebrate. We've got two things to celebrate. One is St. Patrick's Day, which is an important holiday. Got one viewer that mentioned that since, I'm in Boston, we should be mentioning St. Patrick's Day. Maybe do a little get-up. This was my green get-up. It's like the green lizard. It's appropriate for the desert. It's the lizard. I'm the lizard king, baby. Lizard king. And then, of course, the other celebration. We've got cause to celebrate. The Fed fans have cause to celebrate, folks. Congratulations. That was a nail-biter. Federer versus Coric at the 2018 BNP Paribas Open, Indian Wells. What a nail-biter. Coric really looked to be in fine form today. I couldn't make heads or tails of it. Listen, Roger was not feeling quite like Roger in that first set. And in fact, I would venture to say that pretty much the whole match, Roger was not quite himself, just a little bit out of sorts, not, sort of displaying that edge that he usually has, a little bit grumpy. Well, the grumpy we like. Gosh, in the second set there, when he started getting really grumpy, well, then that's when I knew that this match could really turn, because then, when he gets that anger, when he starts to get pissed off, when he doesn't want to take any more malarkey from anybody, that's when we know it's essentially over. But this was such a nail-biter. What exactly happened here? Well, I think it's true. Coric was suffocating Federer to a large degree with those deep ground strokes, and was hitting a number of brilliant approach shots and coming in behind them in the first set. And Roger just didn't have answers for this stuff. The youngster was prancing all over the court. He really does have some fancy footwork, Borna Coric. Coric, excuse me. And I think Federer was having a hard time dealing with it. Maybe after guaranteeing himself the world #1 for a few more weeks, some of the fire in his belly burned out a little bit. But what was required to kind of rekindle those flames for Roger was just a hard-fought match. And I think, for whatever reason, Roger was able to turn it around. Of course, he's done this so many times. Listen, when he was down a set, down a break in the second set, I kept thinking to myself, I'm still not betting against Roger. He looked terrible. He looked out of sorts. He wasn't, sort of seeing the ball in the way that he usually does. Down a set, down a break, and I said to myself, I still wouldn't bet against him. This is probably going to happen for him, and sure enough, he turned it out. He delivered. What a sight to see. What a beautiful sight to see. We were doing a lot of tweeting over there, and I had a lot of good exchanges with folks. This was an inspiring match. It's great to see that Federer, Federer actually, he needed to drop a set. I said that in one of my tweets. He needed to drop a set because he needed to be kind of awoken from this little slumber he was in or something, because he just didn't look right. He looked like he was still sleeping. People were saying the spirit of Djokovic was out on the court. Well, if the spirit of Djokovic was out on the court in the body of Coric, then the spirit of Federer was sort of absent from the court to a very significant degree for a large part of the match. it was a close match. It was really neck and neck till pretty much the end. Coric did sort of fall apart under the pressure. But Coric really did have every opportunity to win this match if he could sort of muster up the shots to do it in a way, because Roger was looking pretty weak, folks. But on the other hand, Roger did work himself up into the kind of state of that animalistic sort of, that committed state that Roger has, and he did ultimately deliver. Kind of turned his serve around. He was not serving well. He was not landing those first serves in the first set. And so there were parts of his game that were just lacking. But to know that Roger can come out on the court, and he was like, what, 70, 75%, if that, in the first set, to know that he can come out at 70, 75% and then work himself up into a froth, work himself up into that grumpy old goat state, as Matt over at Coffee Break Tennis likes to put it, and to edge out this youngster, well, that was astonishing, folks. Listen, when you watch Roger Federer, you have to have, pillows on the floor to pad your jaw when it drops. And my jaw was dropping a couple of times. Of course, this was close right up until the very end, but ultimately, Federer did start to mix it up. He was hanging around in the baseline a lot. I don't know what that was all about. Comment about this. I mean, what was that all about? It was not the sort of forward Roger that we're used to seeing in those first couple of sets. He did eventually get into that, but I think in general, he was playing the baseline a lot more. It's interesting. I mean, you'd think he would have brought that variety, that heterogeneity, but I think it was just his feeling. I think he just wasn't feeling well. His instincts weren't firing on all cylinders, so to speak, and he just was not able to kind of edge Coric. But Coric, I will give him a lot of credit. I didn't see this coming really with him, and I think, his performance and the quality of it is sort of highlighted by Roger's weaknesses, and when Roger started to step up his game, well, then Coric started to have problems, but Coric did stand strong pretty much for the entire match, so a lot of credit to the youngster, the non-Serbian youngster, the Croatian youngster who is not a countryman of Novak Djokovic, but their fathers were countrymen, and Coric did bring that style of play to the court today, that the depth of the ground strokes was giving Federer a number of problems early in this match. And Roger does have answers for those deep shots, but Coric was kind of putting Roger off balance a little bit. Again, it's hard I have to examine the match a little more, and I'll have more to say tomorrow about this, but it's hard to say whether it was Federer's sort of out of sorts, or kind of less than perfect, less than ideal state of affairs that he had, or whether it was the Coric strengths. Coric does have that amazing footwork. He was, dancing around the court to some degree. He's a youngster. He's got the stamina. To see Roger go toe-to-toe with him and to see him finally edge the young Croat was a pleasure to watch, and it was a very exciting match. We are getting some fantastic tennis at Indian Wells this year. We've got another match coming right up, Delpo versus Raonic. I'll have more to say on that possibly later tonight or tomorrow. But for now, let's celebrate. It really is a time to celebrate for the Fed fans. He turned out a great performance. I have faith that he can defend this title. He did reveal some cracks in the Federer edifice, as it were, today. But for the Fed fans, you can have faith that he will be in better form tomorrow and won't struggle so much in the early part of the match. But for now, don't worry about it. have a great night. Go out and party. It's St. Patrick's Day. Party for me. I want to go out, maybe doing a little of this craziness, just so we can laugh a little or celebrate. Come on, baby. Where's my... Woo! And have a good time. Celebration. Woo! Look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Enjoy it. Be inspired by Federer, because he inspires me in everything I do. Doesn't have to be tennis, it's anything that you do. Let's talk more about that tomorrow. Be well.